patience. It tests your worship. That's the part nobody tells you about silence. It's not empty. It's revealing. When God delays, he's not just holding back an answer. He's holding up a mirror. And in that mirror, you start to see what you really trust. Exodus 32:1 says, "When the people saw that Moses delayed coming down the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, 'Make us gods who will go before us.'" Just 40 days. That's all it took for Israel to trade the presence of the living God for a statue that wouldn't talk back. Because when heaven feels quiet, the human heart gets noisy. They couldn't handle silence, so they filled it with something shiny. And we still do it. When the prayer isn't answered, we start building golden calves of our own. For some, it's control. If God won't move, I'll make it happen myself. For others, it's comfort. If God won't fix it, I'll numb the pain. And for many of us, it's distraction. We drown out the ache so we don't have to face it. But waiting exposes the idols you didn't know were there. It shows whether you worship the giver or just the gift. Psalm 37 verse 7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him." That verse doesn't sound heroic, but it's warfare, because stillness is where faith either stands or falls. Think about Abraham. He had the promise of a son, but no sign of fulfillment. And when the waiting got long, he made a human plan. Ishmael was born, and with him came decades of tension that could have been avoided if Abraham had just waited for Isaac. Waiting isn't weakness. It's obedience under pressure. Deuteronomy 8:2 says, "The Lord led you these 40 years in the wilderness to humble and test you to know what was in your heart." That's what waiting does. It humbles you until all the pretending stops. You can't fake trust in a desert. You either believe God is enough or you don't. And here's the hidden advantage. Waiting detoxes your worship. It burns away everything you thought you needed until only love remains. You stop chasing blessings and start chasing the blesser. Isaiah 26:3 promises, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." That's the reward hidden in the waiting, perfect peace in an imperfect season. So if you're in that silent stretch right now, don't rush to fill it. Don't build something golden just because God seems quiet. Stay in the stillness long enough to see what it's showing you, because waiting doesn't just prove your patience, it purifies your praise. And when the silence finally breaks, you'll realize God wasn't late. He was listening and leading you back to himself all along. Waiting turns delay into direction. Have you ever prayed for God to open a door only to watch him close every single one you were hoping for? And then you start wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I miss it? What feels like delay might actually be direction. When God slows you down, he's not punishing you. He's protecting you. He's not denying your request. He's redirecting your steps. Proverbs 16:9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. We plan the route, but God holds the GPS. And sometimes he'll take the long way because the short way would have broken you." Think about Israel leaving Egypt. Exodus 13:17 says God didn't lead them by the direct road, even though it was shorter, because if they saw war too soon, they'd run back to bondage. So he led them through the wilderness, a route that looked slower, but it was safer. What they called delay was really a divine detour. And maybe that's exactly what's happening in your life. You thought that opportunity, that relationship, that door was the one. But when it closed, you felt betrayed. You didn't realize that God wasn't closing your future. He was closing your distraction. Psalm 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way." Notice, it doesn't say the destinations are ordered, it says the steps are, because God reveals direction one step at a time, not one map at a time. That's how faith grows, step by step. Sometimes the worst thing God could do is answer your prayer too early. The right thing at the wrong time can still wreck your peace. That's why he slows you down, because he sees what you don't. He knows that what looks like a pause might be the moment he's rerouting you toward purpose. Acts 16 tells us that Paul wanted to go preach in Asia, but the Spirit of Jesus forbade him. Paul wanted to preach. That's a good thing. But even a good thing can be a wrong direction when it's not God's thing. So God redirected him to Macedonia, and that's where the gospel exploded across Europe. If Paul had forced his way into Asia, we might not have the churches we read about today. So the next time God says not yet, don't panic. Pause. Don't see it as rejection, see it as redirection. Every no from God is really a not here. Every delay is his way of turning your route into revelation. Isaiah 30:21 says, "Your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it when you turn to the right or to the left.'" That's the hidden advantage of waiting. It tunes your ear to God's voice. because when you stop forcing the plan, you start following his whisper. You call it delay, heaven calls it correction. Every closed door isn't meant to stop you, it's meant to save you. So don't curse the slowdown, don't rush the reroute, because one day you'll look back and realize the long way wasn't a setback. It was the safest way to the promise. Waiting protects you from premature blessing. Have you ever prayed for something you were sure you were ready for, only to watch God hold it back, and you thought, why would he withhold something good from me? But what if I told you, some blessings are dangerous if they come too soon? What if God's not yet isn't punishment, it's protection? Luke 15 tells the story of the prodigal son. He went to his father and said, give me my inheritance now. He didn't want to wait. He wanted the promise without the process. And his father, though he knew the risk, let him go. Within weeks, that son had everything he asked for and lost everything he had. That's the danger of premature blessing. You can receive something good before you're strong enough to handle it, and instead of it lifting you up, it crushes you. We love the idea of blessings, but blessings come with weight. Every promotion carries pressure. Every answered prayer carries responsibility. If your character isn't mature enough to carry what your faith prayed for, God's mercy will make you wait. Psalm 84:11 says, no good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly. That means if he's withholding it, it's not good for you, not yet, because God doesn't give based on desire. He gives based on readiness. Think about David, anointed as king while still a shepherd boy. He had the crown in prophecy, but not in practice. It took years of caves, rejection, and hiding before he sat on the throne. Why? Because God was shaping the man before revealing the monarch. If David had received the kingdom too early, his pride would have destroyed him. But after years in the wilderness, he could finally say, the Lord is my shepherd. Not the throne is my security, but God is. Isaiah 60:22 says, when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. That verse is a gentle reminder. Timing is part of the miracle. God isn't just preparing the blessing for you, he's preparing you for the blessing. You might see delay as divine silence, but heaven sees it as character construction. He's strengthening the walls of your heart so that when the blessing comes, it stays. Sometimes God has to let you mature before he releases what you've been praying for, because premature success can destroy what slow growth could have sustained. The prodigal son got his inheritance early, and it felt like freedom. But freedom without wisdom becomes captivity. So maybe that's why God hasn't said yes yet. He knows the blessing isn't the goal, you are. He's not withholding it to hurt you. He's holding it until you're healed enough to hold it. Proverbs 10:22 says, the blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. That means, if it's truly from him, it won't break you. It will build you. So if you're waiting right now, stop asking, when will it happen? Start asking, what are you preparing in me? Because God's delay isn't rejection, it's refinement. And when he finally opens that door, you won't just walk through it. You'll stay there, ready, whole, and stronger than ever. Waiting refines your motives. Have you ever noticed how waiting has a way of surfacing what's really in your heart? At first, you're praying for something good, a healing, a breakthrough, a door to open. But when time stretches longer than you planned, something shifts inside. The questions change, the tone changes, and slowly the motives start to show. James 4:3 says, you ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. That verse isn't God scolding you, it's God saving you. He's not saying, don't ask. He's saying, let me purify why you're asking. Because waiting is a refining fire. It burns away ambition wrapped in religious language. It exposes the parts of our faith that sound holy but are still self-centered. We say, God, use me, but sometimes what we really mean is, God, notice me. We say, bless me, when what we mean is, prove you're listening. Waiting corrects that. It takes all the noise of wanting and boils it down to one pure prayer. Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Think about how gold is purified. It's heated until every impurity rises to the surface. That's what God does with our motives. The longer the wait, the more he skims away what doesn't belong. Pride, comparison, entitlement, until what's left is faith that shines clean. Psalm 66:10 says, for you, O God, have tested us. You have refined us as silver is refined. Notice that word, tested, not to fail us, but to reveal us. Because what the fire reveals, God can heal. Look at Hannah in 1 Samuel 1. She longed for a child, but her wait wasn't wasted. In that waiting, her desire matured. She went from wanting a child for herself to dedicating that child to God's service. And when her heart finally aligned with heaven's intention, the answer came. That's not coincidence, that's refinement. Waiting transforms "I want this for me" into "I want this for your glory." It's the shift from ego to eternal, from give me to make me, from demanding a gift to desiring God himself. Psalm 139, verse 23 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts." That's the prayer of someone who's done fighting the clock and started trusting the craftsman, because only in the wait do you learn what parts of your faith were real and what parts were just wishful thinking. And here's the beauty of it. When your motives are refined, your prayers change tone. They stop sounding like negotiations and start sounding like surrender, and that's where peace lives. Because once your desires are purified, the delay no longer feels like rejection. It feels like partnership. You're not just waiting for God anymore. You're waiting with him. So if you're still in that refining fire, don't panic, stay still, stay faithful, because the fire isn't burning you. It's beautifying you. And when the waiting's done, you won't just have what you prayed for, you'll have become the kind of person who can carry it. Waiting builds invisible strength. Waiting can feel like weakness. You're not moving forward, not seeing progress, not hearing much from heaven, and in a world that measures value by activity, stillness feels like failure. But what if I told you? The strongest people in Scripture weren't shaped in the spotlight, they were forged in the silence. Isaiah 40:31 says, "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength." Notice it doesn't say those who hustle harder, it says those who wait. Because strength doesn't come from movement, it comes from momentum built in stillness. Waiting isn't passive, it's resistance training for the soul. Every day you choose faith instead of frustration, trust instead of panic, you're building invisible muscle. Muscle the world can't see, but heaven measures in miles. Think about David. Everyone remembers the sling, the stone, the giant. But that victory didn't start on the battlefield. It started in the pasture. Years of isolation, tending sheep, fighting lions and bears when no one was watching. He wasn't just waiting for a moment, he was being trained for one. Psalm 144 verse 1 says, "Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." God used the quiet years to build warrior strength in shepherd hands. By the time David faced Goliath, the fight wasn't new. Only the audience was. That's how God works. He builds you in obscurity so you don't collapse under exposure. He strengthens you in private so you can stand in public. When you wait, God is fortifying your faith. He's stretching your endurance like spiritual muscle fibers, tearing them just enough to rebuild them stronger. Romans 5:3-4 says, "We glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope." That's the divine gym of waiting. Pressure turns into perseverance, and perseverance into proof